Oh, geez. She was the cutest one there.
Oh, my first impression was that he was such a nice guy. He was a kind of person that you thought would do anything for you because he was just a nice person.
She was level-headed and she had such a wonderful smile. I knew very shortly after I met her that I wanted her to be my wife.
I remember how we met. Do you?
Of course.
We met at the high school dance, St. James High School dance in 1963, I think it was.
Yeah.
And he walked up to me and said,
I can eat beans off your top of your head.
yes, he did.
The first
date.
The first date was bowling.
Oh, let me interject. Little did he know that I was on the bowling team in high school.
Yeah, it wasn't fun.
And I was having such a tough time because I was bowling, but he was doing terrible.
Yeah, I figured with a square bowling ball.
And I was trying not to score well because I didn't want him to look bad, and he was bowling so bad. I said, "The heck with this," and I just bowled the heck out and beat the life out of him.
And then the second date we had, I picked her up for her prom. She was by far, in my opinion, the best of all the girls who were going to the dance or that I met. She was the kind of girl I knew I wanted to marry.
Dad, how did you propose to Mom?
This is a good story too.
We were dating 3 years or so, and we went to a friend's house, and they were playing cards and whatnot. And they said, "Hey, were you invited to so-and-so's wedding?" Oh, I was working and living in South Carolina. I flew up for a weekend or whatnot. And I didn't want her to think I was going to talk to her parents about being engaged. So I said I was going to this wedding in Altoona, I think it was. And but I really went to her parents and asked for her hand. And it was, I picked her, well, go ahead.
Well, I came home from work and there was a plate of cookies on the table. I'm thinking, that's odd. I said, "Who is here today?" And my grandmother, who was living with us at the time, says, "Oh, Joe is here." And he was, talking with your mom and dad, and your mom put cookies out for him. I said, "Oh, interesting." So I gave him the third degree, or I guess, I don't know if that's the terminology.
It was the ninth degree. As soon as we walked out of her home, her parents' home, it was, "How was the wedding? How many bridesmaids did they have?" And I said 9. And what color were their dress? And I said blue. And she said, "Where are they going on the honeymoon?" She was just peppering me with questions.
Yeah.
And every answer I gave had to be a lie to maintain the cover-up. Because it was my intention to propose in front of the church that we would get married at.
Which he did.
So I whipped around the corner, pulled up, stopped the car, and I said, "Will you marry me?" Yeah, well, actually, and I've thought about this since, I'm not sure we were legal. Because I was living in South Carolina at the time, and I was told I had to come up to get a marriage license. And my father, who was a justice of the peace, says, "Don't worry about it, I'll take care of it." So I never signed the marriage license or whatnot. He forged it for me.
That's true.
And then they called me and they said, "You need to come up here to get a physical." And I said, "Okay." Her uncle says, "Don't bother,
My uncle was a
doctor. I'll fill out the paperwork for a physical," which I never signed.
Yeah. To this day, we may not be legal.
And then,
we went from South Carolina to New Jersey, from New Jersey to North Dakota, from North Dakota back to New Jersey, from New Jersey to West Virginia, then from West Virginia to Iowa, then from Iowa to North Dakota, from North Dakota to New Mexico, from New Mexico here.
To Pittsburgh, right? When we got down to South Carolina, I went into work, which is a power plant, and just as I left the apartment we had, the telephone rang and they said, "Is Joe there?" And Joanna says, "He just walked out, He's on his way to the plant now." And they said, "Well, we had a boiler explosion a few minutes ago. It's an emergency. He has to be, we have to get in touch with him." And of course I got to work and it was terrible. And I literally was running around all day and I fell asleep at my desk. And Joanna was in the trailer. We were renting a trailer.
It was, yeah.
Unbeknownst to
It was. We were in this mobile home, and I had no car, no transportation or anything.
And I only there 2 or 3 days.
I didn't hear from him that entire day, and it was like 17, 18 hours later when I had heard from him, and I finally called, didn't I?
Yeah, you called the control room, and they said, "We haven't seen him in the last hour
He
or
had
so."
forgotten he was married.
Yeah. After I left, a few minutes after I left, about halfway, half the distance between the power plant and the apartment or trailer, I said, "Oh my God, I'm married." And so I got there, and she expressed some disappointment as to how this whole thing transpired, and she was not a happy camper. She certainly didn't have a smile on her face. And while she was expressing her annoyance, I fell asleep on her. And 6 or 7 hours later, I woke up, and I wasn't bleeding anywhere, so she hadn't stabbed me. But we sat down and had a nice conversation.
We had a long talk.
We set some ground rules how we were going to be married, and I was to keep her informed as to what I was doing, and for my entire career, when I traveled, I always called her, and it set a tone, which was wonderful. It was a gift from God, really.
We were only married 11 months when your brother came along. Joe arrived April 5th, and we were only married 11 short months. So there wasn't too much to change, really. It was just boom.
We were living in New Mexico, and I bought a delivery truck, a van delivery truck, and I converted it to a camper. Now this time it was your mother and I, your brothers Joe and Brian, and she was pregnant with you. That we were relocating from New Mexico to Pittsburgh, and we spent the night at a rest stop just on the turnpike,
Not
on the interstate. Not even a campground, just parked with the trucks. And the design of the camper was such that there was a table that you'd knock down, and it was became a mattress. She and Brian were sleeping there. There was a hammock that Joe was sleeping on, and I was actually under her, and all you could see was my chest and up, laying on the floor. And I don't know, it was like 2 or 3 in the morning. You tap me on the head and say, "I'm sick, I don't feel well." This camper didn't have any bathroom facilities, but for emergency purposes, we had a toilet seat on stilts with a plastic bag hooked. So she said, "I'm going to throw up." And it was close enough for me to reach over and grab this bag from the bottom of this camping toilet, and I gave it to her, and she emptied her guts. I never saw anybody discharge so much vomit than she did at that moment. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I am so glad I had that bag there and that I got it to her on time. And I'm looking up at her, and she hands me the bag for me to dispose of. And as soon as she let go of it, and I had it right here, the entire bottom opened up. It was like an upside down Ziploc. It didn't leak. The whole bottom emptied, and I put my arms on either side of it to prevent these chunks from getting on my carpet that I just put in the camper.
Oh, take me back again, when I was 16 with an open heart, windows down
strikes us every now and then. Did you ever think you'd be living in Pittsburgh with 6 children? Because I don't like daughter-in-laws or son-in-laws. When you marry,
Clarify that. It sounds like you just said you didn't like your daughter-in-law.
no, I don't like the phrase daughter-in-law.
Yeah.
She is a daughter, just like the birth daughter. I look at all of the 6 of you, Joe and Mo, Brian and Amy, John and Tricia, as our children. But every now and then I'll think, how would you have ever guessed that we'd end up living in Pittsburgh for 40 plus years?
Never expected to remain in Pittsburgh. Ever.
Yeah.
Never thought.
And we're going to be here forever because we just bought a burial plot.
Yeah, we bought our cemetery
So we have
plots.
a place-
That's an exciting thing to think about.
Yeah, we have a place for
Yeah.
you to plant us when the time is right, which worried us because I remember we discussed it at Thanksgiving all together, and Joe said, well, when you die, we're just going to double bag you and throw you off the back of the house. And Tricia spoke up, and I knew she would defend us, and then she shocked me by saying to her brother, why would you waste the second bag?
All right, what is your secret for staying together so long?
Every morning I wake up and look at your mother and I say, I'm sorry, please forgive me.
He should, but he doesn't. I think it's the grace of God.
You are the best partner I've ever imagined. You are a gift.
Thank you. You are a treasure. I knew that God put us together. I knew that He had given me the perfect man to share a life with. And you've been a treasure all this time.
Yes, we would.
It's been quite a ride.
It has.
And many more years.
Many more, yeah.
Yeah.
We're coming back for the 16th, okay?
Yep. Alex will plan that one.
Your love is why I will rest. I will rest tonight. Oh, tonight. Oh, lay your peace like a blanket.